we'll go for the next lecture of Shatavadhani Dr.R. Ganesh ji's on research methodology in aesthetics. Just a brief introduction of Dr.R. Ganesh ji is he's also known as Shatavadhani Ganesh, is renowned for his mastery in the art of Avadhana, having performed over 1300 Avadhanas in languages such as Kannada, Sanskrit, Telugu, and Prakrit. He is celebrated for his spontaneous composition of poetry, that is Ashukavitva and Chitravakya, during these performances. Notably, he holds the distinction of being the only Shatavadhani from Karnataka and has set records, including composing poetry continuously for 24 hours. He is a master of the ancient art of Avadhana and is credited with reviving the art in Kannada. He's a recipient of the Badarayana-Vyasa Puraskar from the President of India for his contributions to Sanskrit language. Mahodaya, there has been a bit delay, but I apologize for that, and I request your kind self to kindly deliver your lecture. You are muted, Mahodaya. Acharya, you're muted, Acharya.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Chidanandakalam Vanim Vande Chandrakalacharam Nairmalyataratam Yena Bimbitam Chitta Bhittishu. Good evening, and I am immensely grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on the research methodology in aesthetics. What I will be talking is more with regards to the substantial aspects of research methodology in aesthetics and not about the formal, because the formal is always there as an attire, but the substantial is very, very important. And on this aspect of substantial features, I'll be focusing, and even the time is also very little. That's why we can utilize the best of our time. Today is best of our time for this purpose itself. And coming to aesthetics as such, it is the study of art. It is the critical evaluation of beauty in any art form, that is poetry or music or dance or sculpture or painting or theater or film or whatsoever. Anything which evokes rasa is art. Nahi rasadarte kaschidartha pravartate. Apart from the rasa, there is no purpose, there is no meaning in art. And so rasa is the central point, and it is the sui generis, and it is the focal point of all art forms. And incidentally, Natya Shastra of Bharata, the only treatise that is IKSHA in Alankara Shastra or in aesthetics, Indian aesthetics, and like any other subject, whether it is Nyaya or Mimamsa or Vedanta or whatsoever, even Alankara Shastra or art, that is Kala, Mimamsa and Kala Shastra, is the IKSHA. In the words of Rajshekara, it is Panchami Vidya. Unlike the four Vidyas which are mentioned by Bhagavan Kautilya, it is Sahityam Panchami Vidya. And like the propositions of great people like Abhinav Shankara, Appai Dikshita and others, it certainly helps in evaluating the meaning of Veda also, and that's why it can be treated as Saptamam Vedangam. Rajshekara also speaks about that. Well, whatever may be the glory of it, now coming to the research in art and aesthetics, here itself all anti-national elements, anti-Sanatani elements and anti-Indian elements, they're all focusing, because they can't wag the tails in hard sciences like physics, chemistry, and even to an extent in biology, and to an extent in psychology. To an extent, they can mishandle in economics, much about so in sociology and other such subjects, where the harder aspects will get dissolved and they become softer and softer. And arts is the softest science. The art appreciation is the softest science. And that's why here itself maximum perversions and maximum invasion on Sanatana Dharma has occurred, and that has been going on since almost 3 centuries in a bigger or smaller way. And in the 2 centuries, especially in the last century and even in the present century, this is going on in rampant. And that's why you should be very careful and very knowledgeable in handling these things, and we should be well confident and mature with all our resources intact. And as I mentioned earlier, rasa is the focal point. And many people wrongly think that rasa can only be applied to literature or to dance, and they can't be applied to film. They can't even be applied to music. There is no way of applying the theory of rasa into painting, sculpture like that. And especially if rasa siddhanta can be applied, it is only to the bygone art forms, bygone works of literature like the poems of Kalidasa or plays of Bhasa or such things, but not for contemporary writings and all. It is a misnomer of the worst order. Rasa theory is universal and it is time tested and it has no expiry date. I always say, if at all rasa theory has an expiry date, it is equated to the expiry date of human mind. When we human beings, we lose our emotions, we forget to recognize our emotions, we forget to enjoy things, then rasa theory will no longer hold good. In that sense, as long as humanity remains, so long rasa theory remains. And rasa is naturally driven by dhvani. Rasa cannot be expressed directly, it is only a realization, and this happens through dhvani, that is suggestion. And hence, dhvani is the path for realizing rasa. And the approval seal is got by auchitya or propriety. Hence, auchitya is the seal which approves dhvani and that leads to rasa. And how dhvani is created, how dhvani is generated, it is by vakrata, oblique expression. So vakrata is expression, vakrokti or vakrata, expression, a beautiful expression, an artistic expression. And rasa is the experience, a unique way of expressing things, whether in the form of sound and sense, that is vagartha, sahitya, or shruti and laya, that is tune and rhythm, pitch and rhythm, that will become Gita or Gana or Vadya. If it is Sthiti and Gati, it will become dance. If it is lines and colors, it will become painting. If it becomes shadows and light in the three-dimensional manner, it will become sculpture. So all the art forms, they find their respective vakrata, their form in this aspect of vakrata, as propounded by Kuntaka and Anandavardhana. Anandavardhana, though is not using the term, he essentially means the same thing. Anandavardhana and Kuntaka, they are two facets of the same coin. Then we have dhvani. We have dhvani in any art form. If not, it will no more be an art form at all. Now, coming to the research in this area, before going to have any scientific inquiry, we have to first fix our pramanas, the modus operandi of evaluation. Before any such a validation, we should understand what is meant by pramana. And in Nyaya Shastra, in Vedanta Shastra, even in Mimamsa and other Shastras, we have well-established pramanas. Do we have such pramanas in Indian aesthetics? Yes, we do have. Unfortunately, not many people know this. To my knowledge, only in two original sources, transfer sources, we get to know about this pramana. One is Bharata's Natya Shastra. In its 25th chapter, we have in the 128th verse, the pramanas being referred to. And then the commentary, obviously, on it, Abhinav Gupta's Abhinav Bharati, it is again discussing in detail regarding the pramana. And then a vehement critic of Dhvani, Mahima Bhatta, in his Vyakti Viveka, he mentions passingly in the first Vimarsha about the pramana, and a very hardcore Dhvani theorist commenting upon Mahima Bhatta, that is Ruyaka, in his commentary on Vyakti Viveka, he elaborates to an extent. But the details are found mostly in Abhinav Bharati. Then, of course, Ruyaka, in tune with Abhinav Gupta, has given the details, though not in an extended manner. In the modern scenario, to my knowledge, only two great scholars, first, they pointed out the importance of pramana. One is my great guru, Dr. K. Krishnamurti, an embodiment of Indian aesthetics in modern times. He was a doyen of Indian aesthetics in 20th century. He was a Prashishya of the great Professor M. Heriyanna, and also K. Krishnamurti was younger contemporary of V. Raghavan and other giants. And then other person is a great artist, Dr. Padma Subramaniam, Padma Vibhushana, Dr. Padma Subramaniam. She is the only voice from the art fraternity who has raised her voice on this important aspect of pramana. And later, many people have perhaps in these recent years, would have noticed that because of the work of these two people. Unlike the hard sciences such as physics, chemistry, technology, etc., art is very soft, and hence the research methodology cannot merely rely on pratyaksha and also anumana, which is the tail end of pratyaksha. Anumana, ultimately, it is both pratyakshasya pucha bhutaha anumana. Like that it goes on. And then shabda. Then again, shabda is nothing but the formulation of pratyaksha and anumana. Because in physics, chemistry, and other such sciences, we don't have anything like Arsha Pramana or Agama Pramana. It is only the Shabda Pramana based on Pratyaksha and Anuman. So all these Pramanas, they follow Pratyaksha. Like the Rajapurusha Nyaya, everything will follow the Pratyaksha. Then this needs, in this case of aesthetics, Anubhava Pramana also. Anubhava is very important, experience. Experience means we immediately say it is very subjective, it differs from person to person, and it goes with their whims and fancies, their biases, prejudice, and other things, and hence no objective research can be conducted. Yes, it is true. But what we speak about Anubhava in art is not that. Here, Anubhava is Rasa Anubhava, and Rasa Anubhava is universal in nature. Though you may have difference in gradations in the intensity of rasa, but the rasa remains the same. And that is based on the Sarvatrika Nirvishishta Samanya Pramana of Vedanta. We all know Alankara Shastra owes so much to Vedanta. Unlike other Shastras, Nyaya or Mimamsa or Vyakarana or other subjects, Vedanta Shastra has enriched Alankara Shastra like anything. It is only in that sense we say Rasananda is Brahmaswada Sahodara, Rasaswada is Brahmaswada Sahodara. And that's why whenever we have any philosophical inquiry, Alankara Shastrakaras, we look up to the Vedanta Shastrins. In that sense, Sarvatrika Nirvishishta Samanya Anubhava, as propounded by great acharyas like Bhagavan Shankara Bhagavad-pada, Anubhava is universal in nature. And that has to adhere to Sushupti Anubhava. That is the benchmark where none can lie, none can hear. Where we transcend space and time, where we transcend subject-object difference, where the spatio-directional constraints will all cease to exist, and there one bliss remains. And that is taken as the benchmark, because on the basis of the universal experience, we have to build up the rest. And that's how Alankara Shastra or the aesthetics, the subject of art appreciation and evaluation, it takes its rescue in that board, in this aspect of Brahmaswada. And then Brahmaswada Sahodara is Rasaswada, because as we know from the works of Professor Bharatiya, who beautifully extended the concept of Rasananda from Mamata to a higher level by giving the equation of avidya, kama, and karma. In the case of Vedanta, avidya is also wiped off. Avidya will also get eradicated, and eventually the work of avidya is kama, and kama's activity is karma. And so the chain of kama karma will all be washed out just by the realization of vidya. And so once avidya is warded up, the rest of the things, the chain will break and it will die naturally. In the case of Rasananda, avidya remains, but only kama and karma will be subdued, will be suspended. And to that extent, avidya will not be playing its role. It is subdued. It is like we walking in a street where we have a pothole, but we are avoiding a pothole. So in spite of the pothole having its existence on the street, we are not hampered by that. We are moving by vehicle or we are moving by our feet, and we are avoiding that carefully, and so here we pass through smoothly. Like that, the avidya concept, though it exists, it will not be coming in the way. In that sense, Rasaswada is Brahmaswada, Sahodara, younger brother, Anuja. While during the period of Rasaswada, Kama and Karma, they cease to exist. This has to be borne in mind. And then, this is how the Sarvatrika Anubhava is established. If not, we will be ending up in two things. One is individual experiences which are according to the whims and fancies of the person, whether they're learned or not. In spite of their learning, they may be biased, they may be contrived, and all such different diverging opinions will be there. At the most, it will become mere opinion. It may be enlightened opinion or uninitiated opinion, whatsoever, it will become so. And the other one is falling into the trap of yogi pratyaksha. I have special revelations. My experiences are special. This may look very alluring and very endearing, but when we look into this in a detailed manner, we get to know it is the prophetic spirit. Even the Semitic or the Abrahamic religions, the prophets, they claimed so. And what has happened to the world by that? The eventuality has to be considered. By looking at this, yogi pratyaksha never comes into picture while evaluating art. It may have its role to play in religion, it may have to play its role in Shraddha, Mata, but not in art. Because art is willing suspension of disbelief, not blind belief, mere belief. And so there is nothing to be believed here. As we know from the Natya Shastra, it is neither the Paramarthika Satta nor the Vyavaharik Satta. It's neither the Pratibhasik Satta. It is only the Aharya Satta or Akalpa Satta. It's truth of embellishment that stays in art. Truth of embellishment is product of willing suspension of disbelief. And that's why due to this concept of Aharya Satta, we come to know that Rasananda is Brahmaswada Sahodara, and it relays on universal experience. And now coming to Bharata. In Bharata's Natya Shastra, as I mentioned earlier in its 25th chapter, they have Loko, Vedas, Tathatyatvam, Pramanam, Trividham Spratam. Loka, Veda, and Adhyatma, these are the three pramanas, no other pramana. And what are these? Abhinavagupta clearly writes, Loka Siddhani Pratyaksha Anumana Agama Pramanani Loka Shabdena Uchyante, Veda itito yathasvam Niyata Rupo, Loka Prasiddha, Api Agamo Yatha Nyayeshu Dhanurvedaha, Tvartalado Gandharva Veda Ityadi. Adma Adhyatmantu Samstam Vedanam, Patantra is Adhyatmantu Swasam Vedanam. This is how he says. Means Loka is the world around. The world around which is working according to the mundane pramanas like Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Aptavakya, and such things. And when it is Veda, it is not the Keju, Sama, and Atharva, such Veda. It is the Veda means the respective lore of knowledge. If anything to do with music, it will go to Gandharva Veda. If it is anything connected with Artha Shastra, it will go to Artha Shastrakara. So knowledge passed on from time immemorial and codified and evaluated, that will become the Veda here. Yathasvam Niyata Rupaha Loka Prasiddha Nyayeshu Dhanur Vedaha. Nyaya here is with reference to the mode of fighting that is being discussed in Natya Shastra. Nyaya means the way of executing the weapons and how to wield weapons and other things that can be known by the Dhanur Veda and Swaratalado Gandharva Veda, like that. Means even in art also, if any Shastric elements come according to the Shastra we do. For example, if a poet is writing a novel, and then the geographical details of the place where it has to be located or the timeline, according to the details, it will go on. And so there the respective Shastras are pramana. But when it comes to emotions, it is the universal instinct, that is Swasam Vedanam. I feel so. Because Rati, Hasa, Krodha, Jugupsa, like that, the 8 Sai Bhavas and 3 Vyabhichari Bhavas and 8 Sattvika Bhavas. Of course, the number is not important. From Natya Shastra to Jagannath Pandita, if we scan through more than 1,000 works on Alankara Shastra, we get to know that many times the Vyabhichari Bhavas have been changed, whether the number and even the modules, they're all being changed here and there. They are shortened or elaborated or they are replaced. So many things have happened. Ultimately, they have adhered to Bharata principle, but this is how it has happened. And even regarding Sai Bhavas, also some new rasas they have been added, that is Shanta or Vatsalya and such things. And some questionable rasas have been come to the forefront and they have been discussed and dismissed, like Mridaya, Aksha, Laulya, such things. Well, so according to Natya Shastra, Veda is the respective subjects and Adhyatma is Swasam Vedan. What I feel. What I mean is not the individual I, the universal I. Universal I means everyone will have emotions. Like, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaimaithunadi, from there. In one of my works, Vadartha Vismayaswadaha, written in Sanskrit, there have elaborately discussed how these the basic instincts, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaimaithunani, they become the fountainheads of all our Sai Bhavas, and how the Sai Bhavas, in connection with the Purusharthas, they get to know about various rasas, and there how the prioritizing of the rasas will happen as a dharma and artha represented by Veera, and kama by Shringara, moksha by Shanta, like that. Abhinavagupta too has explained this in great detail. And even as I mentioned earlier, Ruyaka, while commenting upon Vyakti Viveka, says Tartha Adhyatmam Pratyaksham. Pratyaksham means universal. This is what Aparoksha, as we can say, more clear to correct Ruyaka. And Nibandha Prasiddha Rupam Vedaha means it is codified knowledge. Anibandha Prasiddha Swabhavam Lokaha. Loka is what? The world around. Lokyate iti Lokaha. Bhangya Pratyaksha Agama Rupam Pramanatvam Siktam, like that Ruyaka says. Now, unlike the pragmatic sciences which work entirely on Pratyaksha, on Pratyaksha and Anumana, whether it is inductive or deductive logic, but in art experience, it is the pivotal point. Experience is the pivotal point. In art experience is pivotal point. This experience can entirely be based on human emotions that are universal. I mentioned about Sai Bhavas and others. So in art research, in studies with connection, in connection with the aesthetics, that is art appreciation and art criticism and art evaluation, this aspect has to be borne in mind. And this is the Adhyatma of Bharata. It is neither Yogi Pratyaksha or Yogikanubhava of the believers, the Shraddhalus, nor the Lokanubhava of the materialists or Lokayatas. Because at one end we have the Lokayatas, and at the other end we have Agamikas. It's just believing the sacred book. And the other one, we don't believe anything. We just believe our mundane experience. Both are not going to get rasa. A hardcore believer cannot enjoy things. It is only by willing suspension of disbelief it happens. A hardcore disbeliever also cannot enjoy rasa. This is the way, it is very close to the experience of Jivan Mukta. And that's why Vishwanath Kaviraja in his Sahitya Darpana mentions Satvodreka, the contest of Prakashananda Chinmaya, Vedyantara Sprashashonyaha, like that he says regarding the Prasaswada, that is Brahmaswada Sahodara. Hence, coming to the research methodology, this truth, this background has to be provided to every researcher. Every researcher should have an insightful understanding of Vedanta as applied by people like Mamata, before him Abhinavagupta, Vishwanatha, Jagannatha, Sharangadeva, who wrote on music and dance as well, and even on instruments. So these most important fundamentals have to be understood. Whether if the student is unable to understand, the guide should prescribe all these things and he or she should initiate that. Any sort of social, economic, political, historical, and cultural studies influencing the various art forms come under the one umbrella of Auchitya. Now comes to picture so many things connected with the non-artistic form. For example, other constraints, non-artistic constraints like the social reformation, the message, and the economic implications, and the racial studies, gender studies, and then the community studies, political studies, historical studies, the economics involved in art. All these things, they are peripheral to it, and they do find their place, but that all be governed by one thing called as Auchitya. Auchitya, as very beautifully enumerated by Ananda Vardhana as the Upanishad Para Prasa, Auchityam Rasas Upanishad Para, that will take care of all these things. How? I can explain in great detail when I have time. Because of the shortage of time, I'm running through passages. But this much is true. Auchitya dictates all these things. People generally ask our Alankarikas, our aestheticians, they never thought about social relevance, gender equality, or gender diversity, such things in art form, such things in literature, such things in dance, such things in music, like that. But all that will be taken care of by Auchitya. How? I have done studies, and I can always be of some help to people who are in need of it. Not getting opinionated by social, religious, political, and civilizational movements or dogma. That's very important. Usually, what has happened in the West nowadays, since 3 centuries, of course, After the Renaissance and industrial revolution, what we see in the West, it has gone entirely away from the basic canons of aesthetics, whether it is of Aristotle or Longinus or Horace, such masters who paved way, which is somewhat closer to rasa and dhvani, though not in clearer terms, though not in unambiguous terms, as profound as in our tradition. They have vaguely touched upon these things, even in the ratings of people like E.S. Eliot, A. Richards, and others, but have been completely dismissed by the newer and newer studies which have been going on in every university. Every professor will be coming out with newer and newer theories. It will have its lifetime only as long as he occupies that particular chair. After that, the theory dies with his retirement. That's how it's happening. And there, all these artistic things, they are coming to the forefront, and that should never become our priority. We have to place them, we have to nail them properly, we have to nip down in their bud stage itself. That's why one should always be faithful to rasa and rasa alone. Then only art will become true art. If not, even the arts will become subservience of social or political movements. Then art is going to be misused. That should never happen. As Bhattatota long ago, before 1000 years, he warned us, Kavya Rasaita Sarvo Nabodhana Niyoga Bhag. Nobody is there to get stimulated, nobody is there to stimulate. And even at the same time, Dharika and Dhananjaya, they said, Ananda Nishyandi Shurupa Keshu, Vyutpatti Matram Phalamalpa Buddhihi, Yopi Itihasadi Vadahasadu, Tasmai Namaswadu Parang Mukhaya. Now, researchers should have, or should at least get guided by those who have the understanding of Vastu Tantra of respective art forms. And they should know, they should never get entrapped by the Kartra Tantra aspects. In that way, the formal should never ride over the substantial. What is Vastu Tantra and Kartra Tantra? These are the terms first used by Shankara Bhagavad in his Brahmasutra Bhashya and other works. And they can be very beautifully applied to all the study forms. Vastu Tantra of Sahitya is Vagartha, sound and sense. Vastu Tantra of Sangeeta is Shruti Laya. Vastu Tantra of Nritya is Sthiti Gati. And Vastu Tantra of Shilpa and Chitra, Rekha Varda, and Chaya, Chevi. This have written elaborately in one of my books, which has been published by Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, The Art Experience. It is a compilation of several articles by very well-known aestheticians and artists. I have myself edited that, and a detailed foreword has been written by me. There, all these things have been discussed. So this aspect should never go out of focus. Then the Karta Tantra will always be managed easily. Now, coming to the historical documentation, comparative studies, curating, reconstruction, restoration, applied studies, like many other things, they will have their own relevance. However, all these should find their focus in the four pillars of aesthetics, rasa, dhvani, auchitya, and vakrata. And to this list, as subservients, they have itivritta, the theme, sandhi, avastha, artha prakriti, bhumika vimarsha, character analysis, and others. And coming to performing arts like music, dance, and others, the problem is much more aggravated, unlike literature. But to an extent, the problem is lesser also. In literature, it is very easy to get affected by non-literary concepts like social justice, gender justice, political alliance, such things. But in pure music, like one Kalyani Raga or like one Malcolm's Rag, we can't have any social justice or gender justice. Where pure Shruti and Laya exist, no agenda can creep in. But when it comes to a novel, when it comes to a short story, when it comes to a play, when it comes to a painting, we'll all have that. When a theme comes into picture, we'll be having all such problems or all such issues. They have to be managed properly. So here, problem of getting opinionated is very likely, and we have to avoid it by this background of universal experience. And experience, how to distinguish between universal, that is rasa, and personal bhava. We need a lot of training. So before studying any art, first we should become first-rate connoisseurs. And to an extent, we should have knowledge of the respective art forms and some amount of prayoga paramya, some amount of executional capability is also needed. And problem of data collection is very much in performing art, where such codification is difficult. And one problem of how to objectify minute aspects of performing arts on par with literature is very important. Literature, as it uses the medium language, and language has been well tempered and well chiseled since many, many millennia. It has taken a very clear and comprehensive outlook, and any thought and any idea can be expressed logically in a perfect manner. But that cannot be so in the case of other art forms because their medium are respectively different. And whenever we want to discuss any such thing, we have to depend upon language. In the case of literature, the medium of literature itself is language, and the same language is used to analyze also. In the case of music, dance, the painting, sculpture, and other art forms, this is the problem. And hence, we have to analyze properly. We have to be rooted in the respective art forms, and our linguistic capabilities should also be competent enough. If not, we'll be ending up in difficulty. Ambiguity will reign supreme. Then interdisciplinary studies are very much needed. Interdisciplinary approach is very much needed. It means a dance researcher should know literature. A music researcher should know dance. Like that, this mutual study of different art forms and having the understanding know-hows of that will make us enabled to come with the respective idioms for our analysis. For example, if I am analyzing music, if I know dance well, the idioms of dance, the concepts of dance can be very easily brought in there, and it can be made more concrete and more clear. And of course, literature reigns supreme. Prayoga Pradhanatva is very important. Prayoga, ultimately the application, ultimately the performance, that is very important. A researcher should have fairly good experience in the actual field. Bookish work is of no use. We know in the Panchatantra also we have the stories where Varam Buddhir Nasa Vidya Vidyaya Buddhiruttama, like that we say. And harping more on methodology without this philosophical grounding is of no use. It is just cosmetic in nature. No cosmetics can ward off our inner maladies. For that, only internal change is important. And problems in quantifying the qualified objects, it's one more challenge we face, and that can always be faced with capability by understanding the concept of rasa, the vastu tantra. And nature of the subject should dictate the way of methodology. We should not just adhere to one blind methodology. Methodology comes and goes. It is a Vyabhichari bhava. While speaking in terms of in parallel with the terms of dance, it is a Vyabhichari bhava. Sthai bhava is the fundamental principle governing feature that is philosophy. Irrespective of the type of art, all research in it should first get rooted in Rasadhvani, Auchitya, and Vakrata. And the importance of oral tradition should never be forgotten because some of the intangible things, especially in performing arts, that too in classical art forms, so much will be slipping out from our fingertips, and that's why we should have the intangible source intact. With this, I conclude because I'm already running short of time. I should personally thank a few of my artist friends with whom I had discussion because in spite of me having an amount of understanding in fine arts and working with artists, I want to know what exact challenges they are facing and what solutions they have come out. And that's why I have to thank personally Dr. Shobha Sheshkumar, Dr. Ranjani Vasuki, and Srimati Madhulika for their inputs and interaction. And what all I have told is based on the Shastras, that is Veda, and also on the loka, observation and yukti. And then from my universal experience, and that's why I'm committed to my words, committed to my statements. I'm obviously I'm very glad and will be always extending my whatever little help possible from my side to any honest speaker, because this is not going to end up here itself. Many questions may crop up. Many people may get to know more about this. This much I can say. Our tradition is strong. Our tradition is sound. Our tradition is foolproof in the core principles, especially in arts and aesthetics. None can challenge Indian traditions and Indian methodologies in both respects, from tattva and prayoga, theory and practice. It's perfect and foolproof. Only thing is we need certain cosmetic changes here and there, not even changes, cosmetic presentation for that moment. It can always be provided. I'll be eager and glad to provide such things to the honest seekers. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Mahodaya. There is one question from Sai Mahodaya. Is there a contemporary example of ideal aesthetics research that shows the use of these pramanas?
Recently, myself and my friend Arjun Bharadwaj, we wrote a book called Nayana Samanam in English on the dance of Padma Subramaniam. It's a 200-page book. We are using these pramanas. We are using the concept of Sadhvani, Auchitya, Vakrata, and others. Her dance, solo dance forms have been beautifully evaluated, and they are shown how they are great. And here we have honestly used, sincerely and scrupulously used all these parameters, and it is written in a very simple, readable English. And here you can know, usually our concept of Rasadhvani, Auchitya and all applied more to literature and very little to music and dance forms, but to dance it has been done. And to music, my friend Dr. Ranjani Vasuki, my music teacher's daughter and a gifted singer as well, she's a great musician, Ranjani Vasuki, has done a doctoral thesis on the aesthetics of music using these pramanas, using these Rasadhvani Auchitya techniques and Rasadharma. There are so many parameters. I need a whole workshop itself to clarify all these things. But these two aspects, one very abstract thing that is of Ranjani's work, Dr. Ranjani Vasuki's work, her doctoral thesis, and the other one, myself and Arjun's work. And now myself and Arjun, we are doing such study on on one painter, one great artist of Karnataka. On him we are doing. That book will also come within a year or so. So by applying and showing that, we can make it more relevant and practically tangible.
Thank you very much, Acharya.